Hi there and welcome back to the channel. In this video we will talk about the evaluated receipt settlement. Before we jump into the system, I brought you one slide to explain the process and the advantages. So first of all, we order a material or a service from our vendor. The vendor then procures the material or service to us. Then we post a goods receipt or a statistical goods receipt in case we received a service and not a material. So far, this is a normal purchasing process. However, in the evaluated receipt settlement, we generate the invoice for the purchased good or service ourselves. So normally, the supplier would send us an invoice. However, in the evaluated receipt settlement process, we generate the invoice ourselves. Then we inform the supplier that we generated the invoice, and then we also pay the amount due. The advantages of this process are the following. First of all, purchase orders can be closed quickly. This is because there are no price or quantity variances during the invoice verification, as we bill ourselves based on the information of the purchase order. Also, there is no need to receive an invoice from the vendor, which is one of the main advantages of this process. So after we agreed with our vendor that we generate the invoices ourselves, we do not need to wait for any invoice coming from our vendor. Thereby we can close the purchase orders more quickly. And also, as we know the amount from the purchase order, from the perspective of quantity and also value, there won't be any differences on the invoice document. And last but not least, communication errors can be avoided. Let's now jump into the system to see all of this in action, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. In the SAP S/4HANA system, we first navigate to transaction code OBB8. That's OBB8. This is the transaction code for creating payment terms. We need those payment terms because we will store them in our business partner master data, so that they will be used later on during the evaluated receipt settlement process. So let's inspect one of the existing payment terms, for instance this one over here with a double click, and you can see, most importantly, the default for baseline date is set to document date over here. For the evaluated receipt settlement process, the default for baseline date has to be either the document date, the posting date, or the entry date. Please do not set the default for baseline date to no default, because the evaluated receipt settlement will need a specific date for the calculation of the payment terms. After you made sure that the default for baseline date is set to one of those three entries over here, we can go and create the supplier master record. This is done by a transaction code /NBP. We create a new business partner of type organization. By the way, if you want more information about the business partner, I will leave you a playlist of mine in the description of this video. So let's just select a grouping for the business partner and some dummy information. Test supplier. Let's just fill some mandatory information. That's basically it. Then we save this business partner first. Let's go to the change mode again, and then we select the role FLVN00 for the financial data of our supplier. We navigate to the company code, then we create a new company code and mark it as relevant for our supplier. Click on Adopt, then just fill the reconciliation account, and let's check if there are other mandatory fields. We can see that here we need to provide the language. That's basically it. So we save this role as well. And then we navigate to the role called FLVN01. This one over here, this is for the purchasing data of our supplier. We go to purchasing, and over here we create our supplier in a new purchasing organization. So select the organization and click transfer. Then make sure to insert the order currency and, quite important, the payment terms, as we have seen before. And then there are two more important indicators. Let's scroll down here. We can see goods received based invoice verification. This one we need to mark as well. And also further down, we can see evaluated receipt settlement. Please set this indicator as well. And then click on Save. Now one step is missing. Let's go to the general data again. Scroll down over here. And here you need to insert the email address of your vendor, because based on this email address, the system will send the invoice we generate ourselves to the supplier, so that the supplier is informed that we generated this invoice. And that's basically it. Let's click on Save. And now the master data is ready. By now, we made sure that our payment terms are configured correctly, and we created our business partner for the process. But before we can start with the process, we still need to maintain some customizing parameters. I will show you now. So we navigate to transaction code /n SPRO, sub-reference IMG, and then we navigate to materials management, purchasing, purchase order. And over here, we will now define a new document type for our evaluated receipt settlement process. If you want to find out more about document types, I will link you another video of mine in the description of this one. But for now, we will create a new number range. So let's click on intervals. Let's say ER. Then we insert a from number and a to number. That's basically it. Don't mark it as external. We will leave it as internal and save. Then go back and back again. Next off, we define the screen layout at document level. So therefore, we click on this customizing step over here, define screen layout at document level. Then just take an existing one, this one over here, and click on copy as. Let's provide a new name, SAP ERS, for instance, and then we click on apply. We won't change it for now, so that's fine. Let's click on save. Last step is to define a document type and assign both the number range and the screen layout to it. So afterwards we can use this document type during the creation of the purchase order to clearly identify our document that will be posted later on as a document for the evaluated receipt settlement process. So let's click on define document types. Also here we will take one of the existing ones, let's say NB, and then click on copy as. We provide our new name for the document, SAP ERS. Let's call it ERS documents. And then the only thing we need to change is the number range. So we created a number range called ER. We will select this one and then we will scroll a bit to the right. And here for the field selection key, we also select SAP ERS. This one we created. And then we can click on apply. You can see there's still one error. Let me just remove the external number range over here because we define it as internal. And then hit enter, you will see this little window. Click on copy all and then click on save. With that, we also defined our document type for the ERS process. Next off, we also need to define some number ranges for our follow-on documents. I will show you now. So let's go back, close this view. And then we navigate to logistics invoice verification over here. Go to incoming invoice, number assignment, maintain number assignment for logistic documents. And then here you can see maintain number range intervals for invoice documents. Let's click on the documentation first. So here you can see in this step we maintain the number range interval for the invoice documents. So the documents that we generate ourselves during the evaluated receipt settlement run. So let's inspect this one. Click on intervals and here you can see some intervals already existing in my system. So if you want to create a new one, you do it via this button over here in the change mode, and then on the plus sign you can add a new number range. Please do it in the internal number range and do not select external over here. For now, just remember here it already says 01, 02, 03, 04. Let's see the next step where we assign the number ranges created in this step to so-called transactions. So over here you can see the two standard transactions. Let's first inspect the documentation again. Here you can see there are two standard transactions. RD to post the invoice and RS to cancel reverse the invoice. The latter one I will show you in a separate video. However, you can see that those are given by SAP. So if we navigate into this customizing step, you can also see RD and RS, and there is no opportunity for us to insert more lines over here. We can just assign the number ranges we created before to the transaction. In this case, you can see that to the transaction for the normal posting and also for the reversal, the same number range is assigned. However, you also would have the opportunity to assign different number ranges and thereby to distinguish normal invoice documents from cancelled documents. But for now, this is fine. So make sure that the number range is assigned to those transactions over here. What number range is assigned to which transaction? The decision is yours. Let's go back. Next off, we need to define the number assignment for the accounting documents. So when we post the evaluated receipt settlement, later on, you will see that not only the invoice document will be generated, but also a financial document. And for the latter one, we also need to maintain the customizing. So click here on Maintain Number Assignment for accounting documents, and you can see 3 different steps. First, we click on Document Types in Invoice Verification, because here we can see the transaction codes. In our case, it is MRRL for the evaluated receipt settlement. Double click on this one. And here we can see what document type is assigned to our transaction code. So later on, when we post the evaluated receipt settlement, then a document will be created with the document type RE, which is invoice gross. So if there is nothing stored over here, make sure to insert RE, and you can also insert a document type for reversal if necessary. If you do not select one, then for the reversal of our evaluated receipt settlement transaction, also the document type RE will be taken. But this I will show you in another video. Let's go back and back again, and then go to document type. Let's find our document type RE, double click on it, and here we can see the parameters. So first of all, the document type has number range 51 assigned to it. We will look at the number range in a second. The reverse document type is also RE. There is a special authorization group so that not everyone can post to this document type. And the document type allows postings to assets, vendors, materials, and GL accounts. Vendors is the most important one here in our evaluated receipt settlement process. Last but not least, let's check the number range 51. So go back and back again, and then click on number range document type in FI for our specific company code. Because this is company code dependent, we can see the number range 51 over here. So the number will be generated in the range of 51 and a couple of zeros to 51 and a couple of nines. So if these customizing steps were a bit fast for you, let's have a quick recap. For the invoice document that will be generated during the evaluated receipt settlement, we have so-called predefined transaction codes, and all we do is we assign number ranges to them. And then for the accounting document, we have the document type, and there are special global settings for the document type, for instance, the number range assigned to it, as well as that this document type can be used for vendor transactions. And what we do is we also assign a number range and thereby a number range number to this document type. That's basically it for the documents. So now let's recap everything. By now we defined the payment terms, we defined our business partner master and also assigned the payment terms to the business partner master. We defined a custom document type for the purchasing, and we defined our invoicing and accounting document. Now all what is left is the so-called message determination. Let's go out of this view again and close the incoming invoice. Therefore, we click on message determination over here, and then you can see there are several customizing steps that we need to go through. So first of all, here it says maintain condition tables. Normally this is something we do not need to customize, because let's just click on this one, and then on display condition tables, we can see there are already the standard tables pre-configured by SAP. So this is fine, you don't need to do anything over here. Let's go back. Also maintain access sequence. Let's quickly check this one. We can see here the different access sequences already pre-shipped by SAP. Let me just explain you one of those. Let's take, for instance, company code and vendor, company code, and click on accesses. And here you can see the 2 condition tables we have seen before from the first customizing step. So one condition table is company code, vendor, and the other one is company code. Later on, when the message is sent to our vendor, so the invoice document is sent to our vendor, the system will look at this access sequence. And what the system will do is the following. It will first check for the combination company code and vendor if there is an entry maintained. This entry we will see later on. If something was found, then it will take this entry. If there is nothing defined for the company code and vendor combination, then it will simply look for the company code. So if there was a so-called condition record defined at least for the company code, and whatever it finds there, it will take for the message determination. We can even go one further down. Let's click on this one and then on fields. Here you can see the technical fields. So for this access sequence, the system will look for a condition record that we will maintain in a second, if there is an entry for company code and supplier in combination. And then it will take this entry. But this we will see in a minute as said. So basically you don't need to maintain anything over here as well. Next we got maintain message types. Now it's getting interesting. Let's click on this one. Here we define a new message type. So let's click on edit. Let's scroll down a bit. We can already see here ERS. Let's create our own one by copying the existing one, ERS, with this button over here. Let's call it ZERS own ERS procedure, like that. And then you can see different tabs over here. So first of all, the access sequence that you've seen before. Let's actually, for our example, take the access sequence 0002. So company code and vendor, comma, company code. Let's hit enter and click on copy all and then continue. Let's now click on the new entry again to inspect the further details over here. This we will leave as is. However, over here we can include our program for the output management. This one over here. The form routine is called text underscore symbol underscore replace. And we'll take the same one over here like that. And then most importantly on storage system, we say print only, and this document type is also standard. Let's click on mail title and texts. Here we can actually define a title for the mail that is sent to our supplier later on. So let's click on new entries, language English for instance, and then the title would be generated invoice, like that. Now we can click on processing routines, and over here we can basically copy one of the existing ones because we need the transmission medium 5 external send. This is the only way how we can send mails to our suppliers later on. The rest here is complete standard. Let's leave it as is and click on apply, and we can actually delete the other two. We don't need them. Okay, then we click on partner functions, and over here you can see already entries defined, however not for the medium we selected. So let's actually take this one over here, copy, and let's say external send, hit on enter. And then also for PI as well, copy, external send, hit enter. And the other ones you can delete. So this here is important for the message determination that we will see in a minute. Let's hit on save, and our document is ready. Let's click back and back again once more. So printer determination we don't need right now because we will send the PDF document via mail. And then you can see here maintain message schemas. This is also quite important. Let's click on this one. We select the schema MR004 for the ERS procedure. Let's click on control data. And over here we insert as step 30, let's say, our new document type ZERS, and that's it. So this is important for the system to find the right message determination. Let's click on save, click on back again, and once more. And now the only step missing is to maintain the condition records. So this is actually what I wanted to show you before. Let's click on create condition, output type ZERS, and then you can see here, we can either choose company code and vendor or company code. Let's choose the former one. So here first we need to define the company code. We created our business partner in company code 1710. So let's insert it over here. And our vendor number was 1463, like that. Then you can see here some other columns. So function would be the partner function. This is not mandatory, so we can actually leave it like that. As well as the partner. If there is a partner function maintained in the business partner in the role FLVN01, you would also insert here the partner. However, the transmission medium is 5, which is external send. The date would be 4, which is sent immediately. And the language would be English. Let's click on enter. Then we select the line and click on communication. And over here we provide the communication strategy called CS01. Internet letter, and the output device LOCL, and that's basically it. Let's click on save. So the condition record was saved. Last but not least, let's click on back and click on assign forms and programs. And here we need to make sure that our row ZERS is existing and the program, form routine and form are assigned. And that's basically it. So by now we define the payment terms, the business partner, as well as the custom document type for our purchase order. We define the number ranges and assignments for the invoice and accounting document, and we defined the message determination. That's it. Now we can actually do the process. Therefore, I will close the view and we navigate to transaction code /N ME23M. So first we create a purchase order by inserting the business partner we created before. So the business partner number, then the purchasing organization, group and company code, because we created this business partner within 1710 in this instance. And then on the item level, we include a material, a plant, a quantity, and a net price. And then also we make sure that here on the invoice tab, the tax code is selected. And you can see here on the left-hand side, invoice received, goods received based invoice verification, and ERS are all marked. So this stems from our business partner master. And the tax code over here, we need to insert because the invoice document is created automatically and the system needs to derive the tax code already from the purchase order. Now we can click on save. A number is generated, so we copy this number and then we go to transaction code /n MIGO for the goods receipt, click on goods receipt from purchase order and insert the purchase order, include the storage location, mark the item as OK, and then post. Then copy the goods receipt document and then go to transaction code /n MRRL for the evaluated receipt settlement. Here we have the document selection, so we include company code and the goods receipt document. You can see our vendor is already stored over here, and then most importantly under the processing options we have here different parameters we can set. So let me actually show you the options. Here you can see document selection per supplier. So this would mean that for each supplier a separate PDF document for the invoice is generated with all the purchase orders relevant for the evaluated receipt settlement process. Document selection per purchase order. This would mean that per purchase order a separate invoice document is generated. So if we have, for instance, 10 purchase orders from one vendor, then 10 documents will be generated. Document selection per order item. This would mean that for each order item a separate document will be generated. So for instance, if we have a purchase order with 10 items, then 10 documents would be generated. Or document selection per delivery document service entry. So this means per delivery document or service entry, one document will be generated. For us, we will set it to document selection per purchase order. Then we mark test run and we click on execute. You can see the document is postable. There's an X. If it's not postable, then you would see here something in the info text section and you need to correct the error, which could be due to various reasons like missing customizing and so on. So only if there is an X over here, we can actually post. Let me go back, deselect the test run and execute again. Now you can see the evaluated receipt settlement was successful. 2 follow-on documents were generated. For both of them, we configured the necessary customizing before. So here you can see the invoice document with a number. We can click on this one and the invoice is being displayed. This invoice was generated by the system automatically. And we can also go to messages header to see that over here, our message was successfully sent, meaning that in a couple of seconds, the vendor will receive the invoice as a PDF document. I will show you right now how this looks like. So this is how the invoice document will look like that your supplier will receive via mail. You can see over here the header information, and then down here you can see in this instance our item that we purchased. So it was a bike in this instance, and then also the respective amount of the invoice, as well as the payment terms that we stored in the supplier master. Okay, let's close this one and go back here, back again. We can also see that the financial document was generated. Let's click on this one. And here we can see we have a debit to the GRIR clearing account and we have a credit to our supplier. Yeah, this marks the end of a full evaluated receipt settlement process as well as the configuration. I hope you liked this longer video. Let me know in the comments if you want to find out more about the ERS procedure or in case you have any questions. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, and see you next time.